I would be doing you no service if I didn't allow our guests of honor today to share a little bit of their pro tips. Everybody loves tips. Everybody wants to be successful. Why not learn from some of the best? So here to present their tips, why don't we start with you, Mandy? What sort of tips do you have for our audience today?
Focus on your actions and your consistency. Your actions every single day in your business are what get you to the results that you want. The research you do, the effort you put into learning how to keep getting better and better, regardless of the platform that you're selling on. Your willingness to keep trying and experimenting until you start to see the progress. Every step counts and every step compounds. Make consistency your superpower. And the one thing that I really want to highlight is don't forget the yet. I know so many of you are new sellers and might be feeling frustrated that you haven't gotten there yet. You haven't hit your first sale or your first 100 sales. You might not be making the sales you want to yet. You might not be a great designer yet. But the more you do it, the more you commit to it and adjust your mindset to keep going, I promise you, the more consistent you're doing that, you will get there. Even on your hardest days, keep going. You're running a business, keep going and really own that role as an entrepreneur.
Wow, I love that message. Consistency is your superpower. I always liken it to like looking at a blurry picture. The more you do this and the more reps you take, the more that picture comes into focus. So I love that message. Rileigh, how about you? How about some advice for our audience?
So I would say never stop learning. I've been selling on Etsy for almost 2 years at this point, and I still watch hours and hours of YouTube videos every week. So never stop learning, learn new content. I would say stick to a few YouTube videos. I have 6 or 7 YouTubers that I watch regularly. I try to keep to those so that I don't get overwhelmed with it. But stick to those 6 or 7. Watch a lot of content, and then also be consistent in your shop. So once you're watching that content, that's when you learn. You learn how to be good at designing. You learn what niches to pop off in. You learn all the ins and outs of prints on demand. So focus on learning, watching content. And then my second biggest piece of advice is the numbers don't lie. Once you start to get favorites, double down on that. Once you start to get sales, double down on that. What the numbers are saying is what the truth is. And that's what you need to be following in your shop. Whenever an item starts to get popular, make more of those items. But also use tools like eRank and Everbee and look at those numbers. Those are already calculated. It puts it all in one place. Those can be great for finding niches and finding design styles. But don't get overwhelmed. Print on demand is there's a lot of parts to it, a lot of moving parts, but it doesn't have to be complicated. It's design. You have a design. You put your design on a product and in a niche. That's all print on demand is. There's different platforms, different things like that, but try to stick to the basics. Don't get overwhelmed and watch lots and lots and lots of content so you can learn how to make those good designs and you can learn what selling is all about.
Excellent advice. I hope you folks were paying attention. And speaking of you folks out there, let's go ahead and answer a few of your questions in our live Q&A portion. And thank you so much for you folks that submitted questions. I'm going to try to get through as many as possible because the most submitted feedback we get from you folks is that you want us to address as many questions as possible in the Q&A portion. We're already running a little bit long, so we're going to do the best we can to address as many questions as possible. So what do you say, ladies? Are you ready to answer some audience questions?
Absolutely.
Let's go for it.
Excellent. All right. Well, our first question comes from Yokia67. Yokia asks, what do you do when you get a lot of traffic but no sales? Mandy, why don't you take this one first?
If you're getting a lot of traffic but you're not getting any sales, you've got that desirability problem, right? It means that you're showing up, which is great. That's half the battle. But work on your mockups, work on your design, work on making sure that what you are creating is resonating with what that buyer wants. Because for one reason or another, and sometimes you won't know for sure until you start experimenting, for one reason or another, they're finding you, they're coming to you, but they're not converting into a sale. It could be design, it could be sometimes pricing. More often than not, it's really more so that visual aspect. So maybe swap out some of your mockups. Maybe try your design on a different color if it's on apparel or if it's on a mug or whatever it might be. do some experimenting and playing around with what you've got in your shop to see if a different strategy works. Because you're getting half the battle. You're getting traffic, right? I know sometimes the opposite is true, that you're not getting any traffic. So you're getting the keywords. There's SEO, right? There's that search engine optimization, means you're showing up. Now you just need to work on that visual piece, that desirability piece, to get that actual conversion in there.
Okay, wonderful. This next question is for you, Rileigh, because it builds on something that you mentioned in your advice section. This comes from Han Sheng Lee. How many products do you make with the same design on average for the best outreach?
I think this is a great question for me because I've done the wrong thing. Whenever I sold a year and a half ago, towards the beginning, I thought, let me put my product on 3 different t-shirts, 2 different kinds of sweatshirts, a tote bag, and a mug. And I ended up, every single design I made, I put on 8 different products. And it was insane. It kind of clogged all my products up. It's great whenever someone comes to your shop, they have lots of different options. And that was kind of my line of thinking. Well, like if they like this design on a t-shirt, then maybe they'll like it on a mug. But no, you need to make sure a design is selling before that happens. Because if you just put one design on 8 different things, I use Etsy. So for me, the Etsy listing fee, I'm like, oh, it's only 20 cents. I just pretend it doesn't exist. But then 8 items, that's $1.60 down. And then you have 10 different designs in one niche. That's $16 for 10 different designs. So it adds up really quickly. Right now, I put it on a Bella canvas. So I use that as my cheapest option. That's kind of a budget shirt for me, for my customers. So I keep that around 25, a little bit less. And then I put it on a comfort color shirt because that's trendy and I really like it. Everyone buys them, that kind of thing. They're really popular right now. And then a sweatshirt because warm weather, cold weather, people live in different parts of the world. Like up north, it's way colder. I don't know. I'm in Oklahoma. It's really hot over here, but people like sweatshirts. So I just do 3 items. Sometimes I even forgo the Bella canvas and I'll just put on a different one. Or if I'm doing like, let's say a birthday. For a birthday, they might want to have like some signs to celebrate. And I might do a same design on a sign that I do on a t-shirt, but obviously change it for the sizes and things like that. But don't do what I did. Don't overwhelm yourself with listing so many different items. Just stick to a couple of them that you know are tried and true that give customers different options.
Okay, wonderful. This next question comes from Sarah Burgess, and I'd like to get both of your opinions on this in about in a 30-second format here. What suggestions do you have for avoiding copyright issues when marketing on Etsy? Mandy, why don't you go first? 30 seconds.
Copyright is always the topic we love to hate, right? I honestly ignore it. I don't spend my energy on it. I don't give, the negativity that's associated with people copying my listings. I don't give it energy. Certainly if a really big shop were to come along and, for one reason, grab it, then I would go through the process that Etsy has available for, getting that listing taken down. But these small little shops that pop up, these scam sellers that think they're just going to start grabbing all these listings that are popular to do it. I've had bestsellers copied. It happens. Guess what? I make more listings. And that is my mindset with it. And it really is more about the mindset. I'm not saying that it's right or that they should do it at all. But again, as a business owner, that takes your brain goes to a very negative space when you think about copywriting and people stealing your designs. So I don't give it that negative energy. I don't let that overtake my business. I focus on my business. And if my designs are doing well, I'm doing something. If people are copying them, that means I'm doing something right? And I know that my shop and the experience rating that it's got in the marketplace is in a better position than theirs. So the odds of them really taking a lot of my sales from that are pretty low because mine's already there and it's already got that established experience in the marketplace. So I don't give it the energy. I manage it if it happens, and then I move on.
Okay. How about you, Rileigh? Have you ever had any of your designs stolen?
A couple times, but I think this YouTuber might be talking about, or not YouTuber, sorry, YouTube is on here. I think this seller might be talking about copyright infringements. I'm reading in the chat here. Copyright is a topic that hits a lot of new sellers, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Stay away from TV shows, stay away from songs, stay away from artists, stay away from music, stay away from any pop culture references, really. I think politics might be okay in some cases. I don't make political designs because I think it's very divisive for your audience, but you can't use it in your designs. You can't use it in your titles. You can't use it in your tags. You can't use Disney. You can't use Bluey. You can't use Taylor Swift, any of those things. And it's really not hard. Look up intellectual property. Taylor Swift writes all of her songs. She has the intellectual property to those lyrics. You can't make money off of those lyrics, especially because she makes her own merch, things like that. So just stay away from something that other people have already put their brand into. You're going to get your Etsy shop shut down, and you're going to get sued for a lot of money by infringing on copyright.
Yes, infringing on other people's copyrights or their intellectual property. I've said it a million times, I'll say it again. It is not a long-term strategy for success. So do yourself a favor, come up with your own designs and go that direction. All right, let's move on. Tracy Copez has a question. This is for both of you. Can you have too many products? What's a good range? What's a good amount of products to offer?
I had 3,500 listings at one point, and now I'm proud that a lot of those are expiring. Number one, like I said, by putting your design on too many of those products. Number two, you don't need to know every item in Printify's catalog, especially knowing what's in your niche. Like if you're making bachelorette items, you might not want a Frisbee or a garden flag. So limiting yourself with that. But also, if you sell to everyone, Mandy mentioned this earlier, you sell to no one. So you need to be an expert in something. If you have a general store, try to limit yourself still to a few products that you know will sell well and that you know you can get good at before you start going into so many different things. Listings really depend. I've seen a shop get thousands of sales with just 200 listings, and then I've seen another shop with 7,000 listings that has 10,000, 50,000 sales. So it really just depends on what niches you're in. But I believe that Printify and POD is a numbers game. So obviously quality is so important, and you have to have that quality. You have to know what makes a good listing and how to make those good listings. But then you scale it and you make more of those and you go into different niches. You make 10 designs for each niche that you're in. And once it sells, make 10 more. So the numbers are important, but you have to make sure you're making those quality listings too.
How about you, Mandy? What's your take?
Totally agree. And, I think to Rileigh's point, it's that shiny object, right? Especially as a new seller, I was totally guilty of this, just what Rileigh did too. We all do it, right? We get into print on demand, we see the Printify catalog, and we're like, oh my gosh, you can do it on this, you can do this and this. And it's exciting, right? The power that is there to be able to have the opportunity to do that. But there can be such a thing as too much, especially in the beginning when you don't know what you don't know. Stay focused. It allows you to be more efficient, as Rileigh alluded to earlier. Every single time you have a different product or a million products in there, you have to make sure you've got mock-ups, your designs, if they need to be different sizes, their different profit margins, different shipping that might be added because they're going to come from different providers. All that adds up. And the more you have to stop and figure that out, the less efficient you're going to be in being able to grow and scale and get some volume out there so that you can then have enough output into the marketplace for your customers to then get enough input in the form of data in terms of what's selling, what's getting traction, where can you, like Rileigh said, double down on what's working. The more you're spread out, the harder that is to do. But then as you get traction, absolutely. If you've got a design that's blowing up in your niche for a particular customer, add it to a tote bag. I do exactly what Rileigh does. I typically start with a comfort colors, sometimes a sweatshirt. If that sells, then I go to a tote bag or whatever else might make sense for that particular customer. Figure out your designs and your niches that work. Get traction and momentum there first, then scale based on then what you know and have some proven designs and concepts and know what's going to work better. And that's when you start to have a higher ratio of converting listings in your shop versus having 3,000 listings and, maybe a small percentage are actually selling and you're really just losing money on the rest in terms of renewals and a lack of conversion and things like that. So find that balance, but there's not really a right or wrong way or a specific number. It's really about finding what works, getting some traction, kind of infiltrating your existing market, and then double down on what's working from there.
Very well put. Very well put. Well, we have time for 2 more questions. I'm going to apologize in advance because there's a whole bunch of really awesome questions we're not going to get a chance to address due to time. We're already a little bit over, but this is just an absolutely wonderful session. So I want to close it out with two more questions. Kaori Sachs asked, how do you deal with difficult customers, even when you have everything clearly written in the description, images, and in the policies? Rileigh, let's start with you again on this one.
People are difficult. People are human, and you have to remember that they're human. I got my first 1-star review and I literally cried. It was around Christmas time, and a customer was mad that they got a violet sweatshirt when they ordered a violet sweatshirt. They wanted a red sweatshirt because that was in the thumbnail. They didn't get one. Like I said, remember that they're human. Try to remain professional as a business owner. This is where ChatGPT can come in as well. Here's this angry customer message. This is what I really want to say. Please make it appropriate and kind. And if you have if you have a mean customer and you're kind to them, it's much more likely to result in a positive interaction if you're kind back to them. So while you might just want to scream at them and tell them, get out of here, don't buy from my shop anyways, it's not worth it, and they can become a return customer. So you really want to just remember that they're human and show them kindness as well, and then they might come back. And also, you're going to get 1-star reviews. You're going to get 2-star reviews. It's going to suck. That's part of business. So it happens. Just wipe your tears, move on. It's okay. I cried too.
Exactly. And you live to fight another day. How about you, Mandy? What do you do when how do you deal with difficult customers?
Exactly that. You do your best to be kind. I love the idea of using ChatGPT for it. I've used it myself. It's wonderful for kind of taking the emotion out of it, right? I will say, if you get a really negative customer or have a really major problem with them, especially if it's like what I call a nasty gram, meaning you just got this really unpleasant message from them or a really unpleasant, 1 or 2-star review, don't respond in that moment. Give yourself a chance to walk away from it, level out your head a little bit, and give yourself some space to really think about how you can professionally navigate it depending on what the situation is. Most of the time you can kind of navigate it, give as much kindness and professionalism as you can. And sometimes for some customers, I've had it happen where that's just not enough for them. There have been times where, I've just said, fine, here's your refund, just to get them to go away. So again, that they're not really in my, creating negative energy for me anymore. There's also been times where I really stuck to my guns from an integrity standpoint. If they've, made bold-faced lies, like in a review, for example, I will publicly respond to those. And just on premise alone, they're not getting a refund unless they go to Etsy and, make a case and they decide to side with them. Because I know in those cases that there are some customers where they're not going to change their mind, especially if the review is already there, it's done. And you've done, even if you respond to them after that and try to salvage, sometimes they'll be willing to change it. But there's times where they don't. They happen. It sucks. Like Rileigh, I've had tears sometimes too, where you just need to walk away and kind of move on from these nasty customers that do sometimes happen in the span of running your own business. But the good news is that kindness does solve a lot of the issues. And when it doesn't, it's okay to hold your space as a human, have your feelings, and then move on and not get bullied by those customers either. So
exactly.
We've all been there. We all know the pain of that.
And be honest with yourself out there. We've all been that dumb customer as well. From time to time, okay? Because never underestimate a person's ability to run through those stop signs, no matter whether you put it in your policies, in your descriptions. A certain amount of people are always going to miss out on it. And so what I recommend, folks, is take about 1% to 2% of your profits and put that in what I like to call a rainy day fund. And what this does is when those inevitable difficult customer situations come up, you've already allocated part of your profits to deal with them, so it doesn't come out of your regular take. You've already allocated for that. So set that aside. When those customers come up, deal with it, make them happy, and live to fight another day. Okay, excellent advice, ladies. So our final question today comes from Jamie G. What's the best mock-up strategy? With people or nice layout without people? Video? Should they all be different in your store, or should there be brand consistency? Very good question. Okay, Rileigh, how about you?
I think Etsy is a business, so you need to do investments. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Placeit. I like Etsy, so I buy my mockups straight off Etsy. There's lots of whole shop bundles. Be very careful, stay away from AI. If there is a shop bundle with thousands and thousands and thousands of images, that's likely AI. But I like shop bundles because it helps with consistency across my entire shop. But you need to invest in those. They're only a few dollars each, but I find that they convert really well. Videos, yes, I'll let Mandy talk about that because she has a great strategy that I use. But as far as lifestyle, flat lay, model, first of all, make sure it's relevant. If you have beard shirts, you don't want to put them on a woman, like things like that. But you really have to test it yourself. Do some A/B testing. You don't have to do A/B testing on every listing, but on a couple listings, try a flat lay mockup versus a model mockup and see which converts better. And then once you have your answer from those 5 to 10 listings that you did, start using those moving forward. But also scroll through Etsy. I sell on Etsy, so all my advice is Etsy tailored. But scroll through Etsy and see what mockups people are liking, see what mockups are already converting, and use those too.
Mandy, how about you?
Absolutely. I love all of that. I will say ditto to what Rileigh just said in terms of Etsy, especially. I've seen both do well in terms of model versus flat lay. Anything outside of those, I will say, especially on Etsy, you typically see lower conversion. If you're on Shopify or a different platform, obviously, more of the basic white background can do just fine. That is very different. But in a marketplace setting, you need to stand out. And again, you need to have that clickability. You need to be able to invite that customer in and have it look appealing. You get one shot in a marketplace to make a first impression. You got to make it count. And that first thumbnail, especially, the rest of them don't have to be, super, super fancy. But that first one needs to be able to capture their attention. It needs to be a quality mock-up, whether it's on a model or on more of a flat lay style. And then video. I like to use Canva. So as Rileigh said, I make my mock-ups in Canva. I turn each of my individual photos into 1 or 2 second MP4s. I export it as an MP4, and voila. From the mockups I'm already creating in Canva, I have a 10-second video. It's wildly efficient. You don't have to overthink it in terms of Etsy wants a video. I don't know how to do a video. I don't have my products. Don't overthink it. Use what you've got. Again, it's really efficient. Create your mockups, export it as a video after you've converted them into 1-second slides, and you're done. But what that video does, that small extra little step that you can do is, again, it's all about stopping the scroll when you are on a marketplace. And what happens, again, if you're on Etsy especially, when a customer hovers over a listing and there's a video there, it starts to move. That's why I said it's only 1 or 2 seconds that you want that slide rotation. You want that movement because that movement, we're human, right? It catches your eye. It immediately says, something's moving over here on my page. What is it? And that's kind of an extra little shot to grab a customer's attention and potentially attract them to your listing. And that is super important. As he says right on our listing form, right, that I think it's something like twice as high conversion or 30% more, something like that. I don't know the exact statistic. The point is, as these data says that listings with videos convert higher and result in more sales. And from that, though, there are fewer competitors, fewer shops that take the time to do it. So again, when we think about competitive advantage, it's one little extra step that you can do to stand out from the competition. And that can sometimes be the difference between someone clicking on your listing that caught their eye with movement versus somebody else's right next to it that didn't have that. So that is my tip when it comes to mockups as well as videos.
Well, that's very well put. And I love the fact that you highlighted the difference between a standalone store and a marketplace. And here's my opportunity to be a cheerleader for Printify. You can use our custom background tool to add a customized background to your Printify to your Printify mockup, upload it to your sales channel and develop and avoid that sort of blank white background, and that's available for free in your Printify account. Okay, wonderful. What an awesome Q&A session. Ladies, this was, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with our audience. We're going to go ahead and land this plane and bring it in